Right, kia ora colleagues. I'm doing an example of how you can embed data and then speak to it on a PowerPoint, and then I will send an email out with the instructions on how you use the Save As function to then change that to an MP4 format, which you can then embed into or upload to YouTube. And then you can just embed the hyperlink either into a news item or just share the link with students by email. So here's something I did, or similar to something I did with some Year 12 biology students. I took screenshots or even directly copied sections of their data tables from another student's submission to give these students an idea of areas for improvement. So you can set up the headings in any order you want. You don't have to have this bit here, the video set up, but I find that I get better response from the students when I do, rather than just having a mystery voice. And then you can use the tools at the bottom of the screen. This is called a recording the slideshow. And what I did was, for this example here, with your cursor, you can choose whether it's a pointer or a colour-in thing on an eraser. I pointed out here that the label for distance didn't actually give either the units or explain with clarity, is that distance from the low tide mark or the high tide mark or any other identifying factor in the student's results. I talked about the labels here, like with a percentage. What does that mean? Is that percentage cover of the quadrat or percentage that you found elsewhere? So just looking at specifics there for the labeling. And then also I talked about when you're organising your data into a processed form, perhaps keeping all the percentage results together and then the counted ones together, just to make for clarity, for ease of reading. And of course checking spelling, like that's supposed to be Narita. At times I also then changed to something like a highlighty tool. I mean, perhaps you might want to consider showing the zones, and you can do that using colour, or you could add another column somewhere in your table which then lists out the low tide zone, splash zone, etc. And this method of tool use as a teacher and analysing results and drawing all over it just gives the students a bit more clarity about ideas of better formatting techniques. So then we looked at some common errors with processed data, and you can see this time I've used some bits where stuff has been done well, so data has been added in. Again, there's some labeling situations here. And this time it's also about drawing attention to the fact that when you've processed data and you've got an average, that how many significant figures might you use, and what's realistic and what's useful and what isn't. So once again, just a cut and paste from or a screenshot from the students, another student's work to use as an example. And then I found this really useful. It's harder to cut and paste a graph, but you can do a screenshot of it and just copy the screenshot and directly embed it into a PowerPoint slide. Is I talked about here accurate labeling of a graph, and then also the possibility of putting in a second y-axis so that you've got counted data on one y-axis and then percentage data on the other, just to then make it easier when you are describing your results in words. There's no room for error, as it were. The other thing that I then would talk about is, once again here, and the student, so again I gave an example of something that's been done well in the key, but how does the title of the graph accurately represent what you're looking at there, and axis labels distance in meters from where. So that's all I've done, and then I would let the student know that I'm sharing this with them by email, and I would put this in the comments box, not actually the YouTube link itself, but say I'm sending you an email with a link to YouTube feedback, which is generic, or you might mention specifically, you might say, now Sylvia, you've done for example, and you can change the color of your cursor anytime you want. You can say, Sylvia, you've done this bit really well. This is the sort of thing that you need to pay attention to. So you don't need to go into specifics, but you can explain what is needed without telling them the answer. And of course, the more of these you mark, the more examples you can actually crib from to show your students examples of things that have been well done and haven't. So I'll sign off and then transfer this into MP4 format and upload this to YouTube and then share the link with you all. Bye for now.